Fair use is the cornerstone of reactionary content and is what allows channels like mine to exist. A question that comes up quite often in my own live streams, and in general for new creators on YouTube however, is what exactly are the rules of fair use and copyrighted material on the platform? What's up everybody, it's your boy, YouTube Terms and Service Copium. Let's break this down. The first rule of copyright, according to YouTube itself, reads, creators should only upload videos that they have made or they are authorized to use. That means that they should not upload videos that they didn't make, or use content in their videos that someone else owns the copyright to, such as music tracks, snippets of copyrighted programs, or videos made by other users, without necessary authorizations. This part is fairly simple. Try to only upload what you own or have been given permission to use. For example, you can't download this whole video and re-upload it to your own channel because I would just put a revenue claim on it and then suck out all the juicy money you might earn. But I don't mind if you download and clip out small parts or edit them in a way that is humorous, provided that you add a link to my channel. This is a win-win situation for me. But this is my policy and should not be assumed for all other users. Asking the creator individually is a great first start if you want to do this. But there is a way to use my content without my permission, even if it makes me butt-faced angry, and there's nothing I can do about it provided it is fair use, which transforms the content into something new and becomes your own intellectual property. So what is fair use? Fair use is a US law that allows the reuse of copyrighted protected materials under certain circumstances without getting permission from the copyright owner. However, fair use is determined on a case-by-case basis, and different countries have different rules about when it is okay to use the material without the copyright owner's permission. In the US, works of commentary, criticism, research, teaching, or news reporting might, keyword is might here, be considered fair use, but it can depend on the situation. Now this one is a little bit harder to break down, so let's focus on transformative use. Here is a comment from Legal Mindset, YouTube lawyer extraordinaire. On transformative fair use, I enjoy this quote from Judge Level. The use must be productive and must employ the quoted manner in a different manner or for a different purpose from the original. If the secondary use adds value to the original, if the quoted matter is used as raw material transformed in a creation of new information, new aesthetics, new insights, and understanding, this is the very type of activity that the fair use doctrine intends to protect for the enrichment of society. Now let's try to apply this to everybody's favorite show, Friends. We know we can't upload the whole episode to YouTube as it is because we haven't transformed it, but what if we add one new pixel? By the strictest technical definition of the word transform, we have made a change. It is now different, but I think we can all understand this isn't transformative content because we can still watch the whole episode as the TV gods would have intended without even noticing such a small change. Well, what if we put our own watermark over the episode? Quite a bit more than one pixel, but again, we could watch the whole episode in its intended state, just being mildly annoyed by the transparent image being plastered on top. I added this example specifically because a lot of people seem to think that adding your watermark adds some sort of ownership over the property, and this really isn't the case at all. In fact, watermarks don't really add anything to the transformative content standards on YouTube. Not that they don't have value, watermarks are very useful for users to find your channel if someone else re-uploads your content. But other than this reason, I wouldn't really use them myself. Now let's try putting some text over the situations, explaining the social dynamics and the deepest lore behind Ross and Rachel's relationship.
By the way, it seems to be perfectly clear that you were on a break.
Now I would not say that this has sufficiently transformed it just yet, but we are moving the needle. You see, transformative content is almost like a spectrum. We have two extremes, which are obviously not and obviously are transformative, but the middle is really where people mess up. YouTube assesses fair use on a case-by-case basis. What might pass for transformative in one situation might not pass in another, which might seem unfair, and oftentimes it is. YouTube makes mistakes and sides with the wrong person all the time. So it's really important to move that needle closer and closer to the obvious example so you don't have to become one of those people struck from an uploaded gray zone content. Going back to our text overlay example, if you have added text, but the whole episode can still be watched by ignoring said text, you haven't really done enough to pass the YouTube test. So let's go a bit further. Now let's break up the episode into parts, and honestly, the best thing you can do here is break it into the smallest part you can without losing coherence, and then add your commentary. Text can be fine, voice is much better, because your voice is a unique characteristic that the show or anyone else can't replicate. Okay, Ross Chads, they were clearly on a break in this situation. Rachel heads need to get a grip already. A viewer hoping to watch an entire episode of Friends on YouTube being presented by your voice immediately realizes this isn't the whole episode they were searching for. Basically, if you're getting comments saying stop pausing the video or let it play in full, you've done a good job. That person needs to go watch the original show instead, because that's what they were searching for. They weren't interested in your transformative content in the first place. And personally, this is where I would say the line for transformative content is met at a minimum. You can transform it further, but you really shouldn't transform it any less than this point. Otherwise, you're likely going to have a bad time and get struck. That's basically all you need to know when you're trying to transform content. Ask yourself, have I created something that is unique and clearly recognizable as different from the content I am working from? Or will this annoy someone who only wants to watch the original property? If you can answer yes to either of these, congratulations, I'd say you've moved the needle to your side. But let's add a word of warning. Works that are transformative can still be struck, and you can still be punished for it, even if you are in the right. It's unfair, but YouTube will often side with the original creator, especially if it's a massive media company. Since they are so happy to do this and work against you, it's your job to make it as transformative as you can to avoid being struck in the first place. Here are some tips. Try to avoid music. Music companies are much more litigious and will go after even fans just recreating small parts of melodies, and I'll admit I know a lot less about music copyright, so I try and avoid this. Shorter clips are almost always better than longer ones to avoid strikes, because less of a percent of the original work will attract less attention, and YouTube creators can see right in their dashboard exactly how much of the original work is being used. Now, the exact length of what's safe is hard to say, but I try to keep everything under a minute before I add some additional commentary. And when I make content from a big franchise, such as from Star Wars, I try and keep clips to less than 8 seconds just to be safe. People will often comment that creating reactions and reviews is a simple, lazy, and quick way to make content on YouTube, but this really couldn't be further from the truth when making a proper transformative work. I hope this has made fair use a bit easier to understand, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have in the comments. And if you want to see how I transform content based off a Disney Plus show and have it approved by YouTube, then check out my reaction to the Kenobi series here.